All right, and welcome to our belated March YouTube Live. I mean, it is still March. We are still live. A lot of things are still happening, but we're just doing it a fair bit later than we usually do. So welcome, everyone. I'm Sarah, also known as Imagined Landscapes.
And I'm Katie, also known as Roar 114. Sarah, tell me about the tea that you're drinking.
Oh, shoot, where's that mute button? Why is it always so hard to find when we go live?
I had a mild panic attack, but managed to actually speak and find it at the same time.
Oh, I thought I was doing so good with my intro and pulling it up, and I was all like smooth, and then I was unsmooth.
So tea?
Let's do tea. I'll take a sip and get my my equilibrium back, and you can talk.
Oh, okay. So sorry, I meant to ask, me saying tea was tell me what the tea you're drinking, but you wanted to sip instead. So I am drinking brown sugar bourbon, which is tea, and it's from David's Tea, and I love it very much. I was looking for something really spicy, like a David's chai or a Saigon chai. But I'm all out of those. Apparently I did nothing but spicy chai for a really long time. And now I don't have them as much anymore.
Because you don't have any, which is why you don't have them as much.
This is true. Yeah. What are you drinking?
I went with red rose, orange pico, super plain, but it's only my second cup of tea today. Normally I have 2 in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'm working on my 3rd, sometimes my 4th. But it's just how I worked out. I did soccer. No, today wasn't soccer. Today was cycling. Watching some cycling on TV and, you know, cleaning up a bit and getting ready for this. It just seemed like my whole morning was gone and I hadn't had a second tea, which is kind of outrageous.
My alarm went off at like 8:30 this morning, and then I hit snooze a couple of times. And then
time change.
And then Cinnamon, who is not normally a snuggler, came for morning snuggles. And so I didn't get out of bed till quite late, but then I had a Zoom call with your daughter. But I am also only on my 2nd mug right now, which is quite unusual. I love everybody telling us where they're from.
I know.
Everybody in the chat who's chiming in, it's so good to hear. And you know, as much as I normally say that I live in Winterpeg, it is still winter here. But you know, it's only -6 today, which Celsius, which I will take.
Yep. I have to go outside and shovel though, because we got walloped with snow. Well, not walloped. I think it's a good 8 centimeters though. And it was really like snowing. We went for a walk yesterday morning, and we were walking with the wind to get to coffee. And we knew it was not going to be cool when we turned around. And indeed, I was like, just it was like that. And it's an east wind, and we don't get east winds except during storms occasionally. And so I just knew, and yeah, I got back to the house and I was just like, every inch where snow wouldn't melt and could stick, it had stuck. I was like dripping off my own face because it was warm enough that the snow dripped. It was gross.
I was gonna say, there's nothing like snow to make you self-conscious about where are those little peach fuzzy hairs on my face long enough to make little icicles. Oh
yes. I have been getting laser hair removal.
Good for you.
It's been really good. For a bunch of reasons, but I had like almost like a Canadian nickel-sized patch on both sides of my chin they were just, I have such rough, coarse hair that like they were almost always red and swollen no matter what, because if I plucked, it was growing back, and it was always red and gross there. So eventually I just, you know, I'm going to do this. But yeah, as a side effect, these little like frost havens are vanishing, and I'm really digging it.
Nice. It's been ages since I've done electrolysis, but I did when I got my hair cut on Thursday. There's a big aesthetics thing connected to that salon, and so I went and got some cleanup done. But anyway, people aren't here for that. How about knitting?
But I just like I said, there's a couple podcasts I've watched where the women are a little older and they occasionally get really real about things like their favorite nose hair trimmers and a couple other things. And I'm like, I love seeing that occasionally, like that just little glimpse. Life happens. It's not just female gnomes that have facial hair.
No, well, and this is the thing, right? Like those who follow me on Instagram will know that I usually share things, and every once in a while I get these messages like, "You're so brave for sharing." I'm like, but I'm not the only person who's gone through this. So like,
Yeah,
the more we talk about it, the less brave
we are.
it is, but also the more we make people realize it's not just me.
Yeah. Did you hear okay, so we'll get to the knitting in a sec, folks, but the latest Skyrim, when they brought it out, no, not Skyrim. What is it? The one with the girl and the dinosaurs that are made of metal. People who know video games will know what I'm talking about.
Monster Hunter?
No, it's a really amazing post-apocalyptic world where machines went bad. And so the people are sort of scavenging and they're sort of kind of more like cave people, but they have machine beasts. And it's so cool. But anyways, there was a really cool version, and then they brought out the second edition, and the upgrade in video quality and in computer programming was so high. And then all these guys who'd only been in their mother's basements were like, why does this woman have facial hair? And the whole response on the internet was, tell me you've never been with a woman without telling me you've never been with a woman.
Yep.
I thought that was so funny because yes, we don't have a beard necessarily, but like our arms also have hair, guys. Just
Yep.
But
It's
anyways,
natural. That's hilarious.
I think we started with tea.
Yeah, we did. That's what we always start with. And I'm mildly distracted because this is what's happening on the other side of my monitor right now.
That would be very distracting.
She just woke up because she heard a bird, but yes. So Sarah, we talked beforehand and you have finished and have so many more than me things on the go.
Yes.
So you know how many I have. I don't know how many you have. So you are in the driver's seat, and I'm assuming you're going to start.
How many works in progress I have, actually. So we will start with the things I do know, and that is finished objects. So I'll show one, then you'll show one, then I'll show my others, because you said you did have one FO.
One. Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the one we knew I was doing. And by we, I mean like you and I and the general podcast community, because it was on the needles, and I even discussed it as an FO, and I think it's been on here as an intermediate thing, but
this is the Scummy Aqua.
The Scummy Aqua, exactly. So you can see here how it is kind of aqua, big, not really. And I don't know what to call this bluey green when it's like this, but it's so cool. I love it. And then it's got these great, the speckles are more orangish, a little more rusty in person.
Okay. So a little very,
I mean, there are some dark ones for sure, but around that there's always a halo of like browns and sort of like almost more like freckles than just dark speckles. So anyways, my tension's been getting tighter. Woo! As a loose knitter, that's exciting. So I added 4 stitches to my sock. And then had to remember that when I was doing the heel stitch count and when I was going down to the here, and then when I put when I redo, as I take the markers out here, because who wants to slip markers?
Oh, I don't.
All the time. Not me. So then I had to remember, because I've been doing that with Reiner's socks too. I've been putting up the stitch count, and then sometimes I'll get to the toe and I'm like, why do I have so many stitches on the top half and not on the bottom? And it's because I've forgotten in the gusset to go down to the new stitch count.
Right.
So more stitches on top. Anyways, I remembered this time. And just to keep things a little interesting, I did a mock cable.
Oh, pretty.
So every 4th round, I did a right twist, which is like a knit 2 together, leave it on the needle, and then you go into the first loop again and knit that.
Yes.
And it just creates the look of a cable without having to cable. It does, like a cable, it does pinch. So if you're really close on like if you have a larger calf, this is not a great ribbing substitute without maybe testing the gauge of the stitch, because it does pinch in, but I wanted it to pinch in, so that's what I did.
Tara, I agree. From here, it does look a lot more like mint chocolate chip ice cream. And Katie's asked a really good question. Sarah, explain to the people who are here about how bonkers loose your tension has been forever and why it's so exciting that it's tightening up.
So when you have looser tension, there's a couple things that happen. One, you have to use really tiny needles. Like I had actually been considering for a while that I was going to need to go down from a US 0, not to a 0. I was using the US 0, which is a 2mm needle, and I was thinking I was maybe going to have to switch to 1.75mm needles for socks. And like technically a stitch is a stitch and the gauge is the gauge and it doesn't matter, right? Like, but that's only technically. In my heart it matters. And then the other thing that makes a big difference is hitting stitch gauge is one thing, but when you're using tiny needles to hit stitch gauge, then your row gauge is different than a designer's. So anything that's row dependent, whether it's like a stitch pattern, repeat number, or yard usage, or just getting your armhole to fit, it changes everything. And so you're having to do a lot of, you have to be a much more active knitter, or just end up with FOs that make you sad.
Well, and for you as a designer, it was also a challenge because the needles that you would use, the needles that you use to hit gauge and the needles that I use to hit the same gauge are different. And it was the same with the majority of your knitters. And so, Katie, I don't think we've actually talked about Sarah's loose gauge very often. So thank you for asking, but she has from the beginning pretty much had a very, very loose gauge, really consistent stitches, etc. But
And so like people are always like, I don't know if I can get gauge at that needle count for like whatever design they're designing with me. And I'm like, well, I didn't either, because what I recommend is not what I use. Which is why stitch count, and like the whole like I can always get a designer's stitch count but never their row count is something you'll hear, and it's probably because either you or the designer has like an issue getting to that stitch count. It's a bit, so that's why I was excited, because it means also, especially for socks, it means that the tighter the tension, the less quickly they wear out, because when the stitches are tighter together, a smaller portion of each stitch has friction, and therefore there is less surface area to get wear. So each individual strand has less stress on it, less wear, and your socks will last longer and be better.
I just realized that I lied. I actually have 4 projects.
How many of them are FOs?
Still one. Yeah. But while you were talking there is, it's not in this, which I thought it was. This is something else. But happily, I did put it somewhere in this room. So
that's always good.
Yeah. Shall I go grab it?
Your FO?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn. we need to be talking about this. Yeah, Tara, I know that it does look like a very different color on screen, and I really wish I could get, well, that's closer. But yeah, you're not getting like, these speckles are so orange in person. Only the very darkest ones are actually brown. So it's just one of those things where the monitor algorithm is doing things to try to make everybody look. Oh, speaking of everybody look. That's so exciting.
And then buttons.
Yeah.
Which, if you listen to the audio podcast, you'll have heard me talk about the fact that I was sad that I realized that the buttons were going to be not visible when I had it done up. And so yesterday, when I sat down to sew the buttons on, I actually unpicked the flap and reoriented it so that the buttons would go on. And now when I do it up, the buttons will be visible. This is my first, I tried it on really briefly yesterday, but didn't actually look in the mirror. So this is my first time seeing it on myself. And oh, so the buttons are not visible when it's done up. That's too bad. But honestly, I won't have it done up terribly often.
It's fabulous. I agree with Chad.
And it's so soft because it's Knit Pick Swish.
That
I
is
love
worsted
it.
or DK?
DK? I think so. Yeah, the buttons were a very happy Etsy find. So I'm quite happy.
They're different.
Yeah, they're all different. They're all browns and light turquoise and yellows, and yeah, so I decided to just tie the tassels once instead of going back over it. But here, let me do this so people can see the lovely cables as well. And the nice thing is, even though this is a big cable, because it's just a few stitches, I didn't have to use a cable needle at all for this project, which is my favorite way to do it. And I managed to do that mattress stitch pretty dang well.
Yeah, because you had a little bit of misalignment, right? Was it like 10 stitches you were different?
I think it was only 6.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is my Imagine Knitting Kilt project. I'm done.
Congratulations.
I love it. I'm probably going to wear it to work this week.
Yes? More than once?
Well, I would be wearing this not as outerwear because it's not that warm yet. So I try to only wear the same outfit to work once in a week.
We just wear it with a skirt. And then with pants. It's a different outfit.
Sure.
It is a bit of a showstopper, though. People will definitely notice it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm very, very happy. And the nice thing is because it's just a poncho, I could potentially wear it like this and show off
buttons forward.
Said buttons instead of having them draped down the back.
Can you stand up now so we can see what it does for where the cable is?
Just comes down the other side.
Yeah.
That's it. I would probably end up wearing it like this most of the time.
That's how I would wear it.
Yeah, because then the buttons are a nice little additional feature, right? And drawing a different line down my body.
Yeah.
I never want to take it off, but I'm gonna have to because we have to talk about one of my whips, and I will need to hold it up to my body. But,
okay.
This is my folk. What do you have? I'm gonna keep it on. Take it off.
That was a fast throw. With no transition whatsoever, Katie. And I had knit exactly 1 stitch of this new row. So I was like, I'm not leaving my needle. So I'm just riffing for a moment. It's all right. There we go. It's stable now. All right. So earlier this week, I somewhat belatedly did my March More Out Than In. No, it was for February accounting. And I had a rather, so very little in, especially compared to January's 7,000 yards. But I knew like that's the way my year goes, right? January tends to be the month where I like have the most yarn, and then it sort of trickles, and then I just work it off. And so, but when I did my numbers in early March, I was really annoyed that I hadn't attended to the oddball addendum at all. So the oddball addendum to More Out Than In is not just the stash has to be at least a little bit negative over the year, which is my main More Out Than In goal, but also that I need to use 3 oddballs of worsted weight, bulky, and I think sport or DK. And the reason that I can't remember is because whatever I knit, the Musselburgh hat that I gave to Dad was the one that isn't in the oddball addendum. So I was annoyed. I think it was sport. Sport I have the least of. It is the skinniest of the stashes. It doesn't even fill the bin it's in. It actually should be rearranged because it's in a fairly big bin and it does not need to be. So I was under the weather earlier this week, feeling very blah. I have been wrapping up so many projects. Like the second Jimmy Bean's collection gnome set was just in its like big wrap up, test knitting wrap up, take all the pictures, do all the things. There was a bunch of stuff I was sketching for a next collection of another thing, and I was just overrun and I was feeling sick. And I was like, I want a win. I want to do something unplanned. It's funny. One of the ways I rebel against work, which is knitting, is to knit something else, which is weird. But when your hobby and your passion is also your work, the rules go weird. You know, like some people will just, you know, like go out for coffee and just spend a 2-hour coffee. I cast on another project. And I found something that I often forget I have ordered this, but Knit Picks Felici also comes in worsted weight. And I had 2 balls. So that's 2 out of 3 oddballs, because that's how much you need to make a worsted weight Musselburgh.
So long when they're open like that.
I know, they don't look like a reasonable human thing.
No.
One thing I'm really pleased about is the transition between these stripe size.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Really isn't that big, and especially because the way this hat is done, the increases and decreases are so rapid that you almost don't, like, you hardly see them, right? They're mostly up here at the back of the crown. So the way this hat works is you increase, you don't need to swatch, and as soon as you have enough space between, you kind of go, okay, so this is, you can measure an inch's worth of stitches. Okay, this is like a 5 stitches per inch hat. I want to make the adult small or the adult extra large or whatever, the kids, the baby. And then you just like, okay, so now I'm going to increase to that stitch count. And then you go down. So I think it goes from fingering weight all the way to DK. I mean, this is worsted, but I find Felici is on the thinner side also. Yeah, whatever, it worked. And I think this will probably actually be for charity. So then you knit a big hat and then you decrease. And so you knit 2 massive hats, because the idea is, and if you haven't seen the Musselburgh hat, it's by Isolde Teague. And a lot of people have knit this because it is just so great that you don't have to swatch. And so then you do like this and like this. It worked out to be like sort of an extra large size, and with 4 layers of worsted, I'm thinking this will be a really good hat for charity for our climate.
Yeah.
And 2 balls. Although I don't think I got full balls because I had only 10 grams left and this hat is 175 grams. So I don't know, maybe they're not by gram, maybe like not all yarn companies sell by weight. Some companies or some put-ups are done by yardage, and they just literally measure it as it comes off there's like a special machine that tracks yardage. So I don't know, but that is 2 out of 3 worsted weight oddballs. Of course, to knit a single ball is unlikely, but I'm gonna count overflow. Like I'm gonna keep counting how many oddballs I work up. So like if I work up 7 out of 3 might be a statistic.
You know, just track it. Makes you happy. Go for it.
Yeah, and if it's encouraging me to use up the part of my stash that frustrates me, that's the main point of this, right? Is not to not buy yarn. I want to still buy yarn. I just want to be less, I don't know, random about certain parts of it. Or maybe it's just that that's what's left is the random bits. Sometimes I've bought a sweater's quantity, but now I have 3 skeins.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, well, what do I do with 150 yards of something I already have a sweater in? Sometimes I knit a hat and I'm like, fine to be matchy, but anyways, that's my second FO. So let's move on to works in progress.
Yeah. Do you go first here or do I? I've got 3 things.
I will go first.
Go for it.
So that we can bounce a little more equitably. Let's see. A couple of these are things that I cast on so that I would have when I needed them, and then did nothing but the Musselburgh. when I had that kind of knitting. So
Mhm.
they're not really impressive.
That looks like some lovely purples there.
It's all blues. But this blue is borderline, but it is definitely, so this
Oh, yeah.
is Knit Picks. And what you're seeing is this one, which is kind of,
Turn around so I can read the bell band.
it is the Zen colorway of Knit Fix
Okay.
Felici. And it is going to be for one of the two guys, because that's the stitch count I cast on. But whether it will work out being for Matthias or Reiner, I haven't decided. Matthias has been wearing his socks a lot lately, like for the last 2 years. Whereas Reiner's been wearing his for like the last 20 years. So
Yeah, how do you balance that out?
Reiner's well established as needing more socks always, but and I've built up a pretty good thing for him.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I have not touched this one because, like you, I cast it on because I needed it and then ignored it when something different came along. But here's my Pagona, which is the front. So this is Leo and Roxy from the sock kit that I joined a little while ago. And then here is the first of the colors. So this is a really not going to fit well on my needles because it's quite large already. But if you see, so here's the center spine, and then there's a spine, and then there's a spine.
Yep.
And then the same repeats on the other side. So it's alternating sections of reverse stockinette and stockinette. And then it will look like a literal bat wing when it is done. And I have cast on the first of the mini skeins that came with it. It's a nice light kind of sage-ish color, almost toothpaste, but also a little bit sage. There is some stellina in it. Let's see if I can get the sun to hit it. No. So this will be next, and then this is the last one.
And what kind of edging are you going to do on just garter?
This is a Stephen West pattern. I haven't said that yet. I don't know. I don't remember. I think it might just be a garter section.
Now you're going to do it like the whole second mini skein?
Oh, that's a really good question. I can't read this pattern and talk at the same time. It's got too many different repeats. Maybe, because this won't be terribly deep, right? Because they're just little skeins. So maybe that'd be a good way to kind of say this is different on purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is going along quite well. This is the one where I used cunning stitch markers to remind myself of when I needed to do certain things. So we've got cute little cat stitch markers that I've got where I don't need to be doing decreases, and all I'm doing is changing the type of stitch. And then I've got smaller ones around where I do increases, but I could read it with my fingers.
It's really important.
Well, and I cast this one on for, the work trip at the beginning of February. And so I was trying to do it while in workshops and also while on a plane. And so being able to not look down very often to prove to my businessy business workplace that I'm paying attention was important. So yeah, so that one's on the go. Honestly, I haven't touched it since the February long weekend. So a couple weeks. Yeah. Because I cast something else on that weekend that I will show next.
Well,
you've already seen it, Sarah.
In an even less impressive work in progress.
Thank you for that.
Wow,
that's barely a whip.
But the reason I stopped was because this is might be my favorite color of Knit Picks Stroll Tweed.
The wellies.
It's Sequoia, so it is like the darkest teal. ever. Like this color right here is almost right. Like it's a very beautiful green, but not so green that you'd say it's like a forest green, although it is sequoia, but it is an incredible color. Let's see if I can get it. No, that's
Yeah.
worse. Anyways, so I'm doing work sock style socks for everybody,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm at the point in the cuff where I need to switch to the stripe. And the only other yarn I have in here is the same color, so I can't stripe. So basically I got to that point and was like, well, that's set up for future Sarah. So future Sarah, well, and I did find the stripe color the other day. Boy, do I need to do a bit of a stash, putting away all the yarn that I got in January has not been put away because I wanted to make sure that I'm like, I got it all logged in Ravelry. I like to know exactly how many skeins I have and what the color is and all of that. And to do that, I need to have it around. And so it's just, I don't even know where that yarn is. Where did I put it? Oh, I just shoved it in my one cupboard. So that is also when I found the contrasting color. So it needs to not go away. But yeah, rather than having my work bags like somewhere where I want to be working on them, I've got just yarn.
Yeah.
Isn't this cute? It's got gnomes on it.
And Santa.
Yeah, this is a beautiful sister bag and I just love it.
Yeah.
They do such good stuff.
Nice. So on the last weekend that I touched my Pagona, I also finally decided what to do with my knit picks. Knit picks stroll fingering weight gradient in Dragon Breath. I've talked a few times about what I may or may not do with it and how it's this beautiful, starts at kind of this lovely blackberry purplish dark color that goes into a fiery orange to a lighter orange to a yellow. And I was going to do a rad vent, and then I realized that I was going to get stalled out on it. And so I realized that I love this poncho and I want more ponchos in my life. And so I cast on a random number of stitches. I did some Googling to find not garter stitch edges and cast on. And then got about this deep into it and frogged. Because I found this lovely hatch stitch. I think I talked about this on the podcast. That I wanted to use as the edge. Let's see if you can actually see it here. No, it doesn't want to focus on it. But it's really simple. It's knit one, no, slip one, knit one, yarn over, and then jump the slip stitch over. So it's just kind of a fake little cable there, fake little braid.
Oh, that's in focus.
Yeah. So I had done that all the way across the bottom and it was flipping in a way that I didn't like. And I realized that I'd cast on too many stitches. So I frogged, and then I just did a really quick 2x2 garter. But I'm keeping 2 of the hatch stitches on the edges. And then I just cast on and I knit.
Wow.
And knit. And knit.
Wow. Okay. So you've gone from one end of one ball to that same end of the other ball. So that's 2 balls that you did in a mirror.
This much left of the other one. And I have 1 left.
So a third ball.
Sorry?
A third ball.
Yeah. Yeah. So my question has been, now I have to take off this lovely thing. I'm going to wear the heck out of this. I'm not going to put it there because Cinnamon will start needing it.
Hang on, can you just do a little tattoo shot for me? Because it's like flashing up. And is that the lilac? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it in October and we haven't seen each other enough since then.
Yeah, especially not in t-shirts.
Yes, certainly. Yeah. So my thing is I like the length of it, right? It's going to be
the depth of it.
Yep, the depth of it. But I think, like, I love how that other poncho goes to my elbow.
Yes.
And so I think I definitely need to cast on the other one. I wasn't sure, because here is the line. I wasn't sure if this was gonna be enough to do, but that's not gonna be long enough. I'll never wear it.
I don't think so. No.
So that was the most thing that I wanted to actually have a chat with you about.
So are you going to go with purple again and just mirror again?
Yeah, because I like the idea of it being like one corner of it being purple and the other corner of it being yellow.
Yeah.
There's something pleasing about that. And then, yeah, like then it just looks like it just keeps fading, shifting back and forth.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is just kind of a made up pattern. I didn't use the knot in the middle when I joined. Instead I did your suggestion of that weaving way of doing it, and I did it a little bit back on the way in.
Yeah.
And so you really can't see it very much on the other side at all. Yeah.
It's showing a little bit with the way the monitor, like the way the thing is doing it, with the see-throughness of it up, but next to your body.
Yeah, it's not really going to be that visible. So yeah, I'm loving the colors of this. And yeah, Gina, this purple is just like so gorgeous. But yeah, I don't think they're making it anymore, which is why I bought 3 without a plan.
Yeah.
But
I
here
don't
we
even know if
are.
they're doing stroll gradient anymore, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Although they're hard to read sometimes, right? Like they'll say it's discontinued, and maybe it's just they're changing the base, but they'll continue the concept.
Some stroll worsted, some new colors in stroll just came out.
Oh,
by the way.
That's exciting.
So yeah, that's it. It's scratching that itch. There's just a little bit of attention at, each of the ends. But most of it is just, it's great. It's good for the work knit club. It's good for watching things where you can't look away, or it's got subtitles. So yeah.
And it's so colorful and like just rewarding visually.
Well, that's it, right? Like, and it's very much that when will I get to the next color change? So it's just, yeah.
So my next thing is a design that is not secret, which is so rare. So I thought I'd do a little bit of an update. So this is.
Yeah, go.
Okay, so the gray is a worsted. No, it's a lace weight. And
what?
then I have minis in it's the smoothie gradient fade from Marionated Yarns. So it like starts yellow and goes to this incredible pinky orange.
Cool.
And yeah, it's not, I don't know, it's more than that. Anyways, it's not looking great because this stitch is supposed to be, what's the word I'm looking for? So this is supposed to sort of stick down in a nice way, but without blocking it. It's well, there, that's a bit better. So I want to play with the difference in weight between the lace weight and the fingering weight.
So none of this is worsted. That was just a really random word that came out of your mouth. Okay, good. I was still waiting for that to show up, and I was like,
nope. So it's lace weight and fingering weight, and I want to try to get the gray to be kind of ethereal, especially once it blocks out, and very not there, and just have these sizzles of. But I don't know if this is working. So like I am partway into this, and I need to swatch a little bit more and then actually block it and see what it looks like. And if this stitch pattern isn't going to work, then I have to go back to the drawing board, because I've used it before. It works great. I did it on a hat, the Windows hat, where it went up. But yeah, I'm a little like, is this working? Is it not? Does it need the same weight around it to kind of force it to play the way, like to put the tension in, or do I just need to block it? So I just need to block it. But this is swatch 3. I think of my process. The last time I did this, I just did not have a big enough needle in order to get the lace weight to be kind of gauzy. And then I'm thinking I'm actually going to use a shape very familiar to you and that we will see in a moment. I'm thinking of doing a half pie, so a semicircle.
Yeah.
Because I think this would look really, really nice without the increased lines.
Yeah.
So I just shared a design and it feels like magic.
I'm very interested to see where you go with this one. I like the idea of the gauziness, right?
Yeah, and I mean the colors are just, where are my colors? Oh, never mind. Here's the yellowest yellow though.
Ooh.
Right? Like,
yeah.
And maybe it works better with only one. See here, I only did one garter. Let's see if we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas with the second swatch, what I did is I first did a ridge and then I did the stitch.
Yeah.
And
well,
maybe
that's see how they block out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is, you can see how much less gauzy this is, like.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. So it goes from neon banana all the way down to there in a really nice gradient. So.
Nice. Like sorbet. I know you said it was slushy, right? For Slurpee?
Mango smoothie.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sunrise smoothie. I think the word smoothie's in it though.
Okay. Nice. Me? Okay. So this is my last thing to show off. And it's also like, I know what I just showed is really, really pretty, but this is, I think, my most beautiful whip right now.
I agree. It is so screen friendly.
Ah! Got little minis rolling all over the place. So this is Painted Rainbows by Stephen West. It is a half moon shawl. It is done in Neighborhood Fiber Company's Pride set, and I think this is Uptown, this dark color. And so I think the last time I showed it off, I was about to start sorry, I need to pick this up. I was about to start the border, but I have started the border.
Wow. So wow.
And so it's knit on. It starts with this kind of big corner. Yeah, and it just goes for days. For days.
So wow, though, my goodness.
And so the last time we talked about this on the audio podcast, I was hesitating because I knew I was playing some yarn chicken.
Yes.
And I knew I would be going in. I'm just going to do this, but it's just there.
Yes.
I need to rename this. It's Painting Goth Rainbows on my blog, and I'm going to rename it as Painting Stained Glass Rainbows because it's just so much more. Oh, I love it. So I did thank goodness we've got this, because my sense of time is so broken that knowing that we had this today made me pick this project up yesterday and weigh my things. And I need a jeweler's scale like you talk about, because the first I did, here's my stuff. I weighed my darkest color, like the main color, the gray, dark gray, and I had 47 grams. And then it's just four rows. I did a stripe. And then I weighed it and I had 47 grams. And then I did a color and I went from 26 to 26 with the color. And then I weighed the gray again, just to make sure that it didn't shift in that time. So I went from 47 to 46. And then I did a color, which went from 25 to 24. And then I did 45 and 45. I went from 46 at the end of one dark color to 45 at the beginning of the next. So this is why I need a jeweler. But anyway, so I did some math based on the gram usage. And then I had also smartly weighed everything before I started the border. So I had my numbers before I got into this. Also, in the process of doing that, I realized that I had one too many stitches in the border. So I ate that up when I realized that. And then I am going to be like over 50 grams short of the darkest color.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I went stash diving. And tell me, can you tell down here where I changed from one color, one dyer and base to another dyer and base?
No, and the camera's usually super unforgiving, much more even than real life, and I can't.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing, hey? So I found this is Ginger Snap. And it's pretty much the same thickness. In person, it looks a little dustier than this one, but like I can't see it in the knitting.
Yeah.
And so I switched early just in case there was a lot of difference so that I could have this is going to still be in the neighborhood fiber art.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, I'll probably switch, you know, around here at the other end so that part's all the neighborhood fiber arts that, you know, the ends look the same, but I really don't think it's going to be much of a difference. So yeah, so I'm back to doing this. I am not even
so amazing.
Halfway. I'm not even halfway, and I have done this much.
Oh, look at that.
But yeah, exactly. I am so excited about having this done. And it is very warm to put on top of this DK poncho.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just amazing.
Yes. It's funny that yours is, you're renaming it to be stained glass, because my project is also very stained glass.
Yeah? Let's see.
All right, so this is a resurrected unfinished object that I actually hibernated. So this is so old. I started it so that I would have something so that I could consistently get something little in for the Harry Potter Knit and Crochet House Cup, because internet points are so motivating. And so there were like different classes, and they would be like, use something that embodies the transformative power of the wind or blue. Like, you know, there would be like a prompt where it'd be like, and you know, Professor McGonagall comes down the stairs and something, and they'd be like, and then this is the way you put it, like this is the romance text, and you could interpret it however you want, but also you can just use blue. Like they would always have like the almost always there was a color option, and so I wanted something like that. And then I just kind of, I even wrote it up because people really liked it. It wasn't my idea, but and then I got stuck. And so this has been actually hibernated since 2020. And the pattern that I wrote up, that I'm writing this or using this from, because I looked it up because I was like, what am I even doing? It's been so long. It's copyright 2018. So this is like ancient stuff, but I think I'm gonna put it out as a free pattern, because it's not like a brilliant new idea, and I learned a lot from other people. But this is my my mitered squares, but not just squares. So as you can see, mine have this dark border, and they also have, I have bigger squares, but I also have rectangles.
Yeah. And
the rectangles go both directions. Let's see if I can find a sideways one. Where is it? I know there's one somewhere here.
I'm not seeing it.
Give me a minute here.
It might be up at the top. Oh, wait.
Oh.
Nope, that's the same direction.
No.
Go.
Anyway, yeah. So you can do the rectangles either direction.
Yeah. There, you've got an example of both.
Yeah. So yeah, this way and this way. And I really like the process of mitered squares, but when I was looking at other people's mitered squares, I actually hate unplanned, just leftovers touching each other. I really like that people are happy with their mitered squares, And I'm happy for them that they're using up leftovers, and
I love that for you.
never want, yeah, I love that journey for your yarn. And then and then I saw the one with the border, and I was like, yes, yes, because what it does is it just gives everything its own little shape. And I'm like loving this so much. I have often, like, even though like I'm not actively working on it right now, but I love this so much. I dream about doing it with like a white or a silver, maybe to make a silver so that it's not quite so like what happens if you wash it, kind of a chaos.
Yeah.
But like, what if you did like a lighter color? And then you could even do like, oh, I've got all sorts of ideas with how to make this fun and weird. And like, but what if you did one color for the board, like a solid like this for the frame, but what if you only use a color changing yarn like you've got there, like like
the gradient, the long slow change.
And what if it wasn't quite as long and slow? Well, what if it wasn't a striping? Because I've got a couple self-striping here, and I don't love it. Hang on. So there's
a couple right there.
Self-striping, because you can see that there's no garter blips. But if you look here, also, I think I did that. I've got one example somewhere. Oh, this is just variegated. And
yeah,
it's a bit messier. But yeah, like what if you did with like, say, chroma or something like that, and then we just gently fade in and out and be just all fun. So this is something that like I said, I have it written up as a pattern. I only have a PDF of this pattern though. I do not have the original file, which means it was on our old computer. And just never transferred from that hard drive onto the Mac, because you can't, like, it's not like we went to a Mac at a certain point and you can't just like, oh, I'll just dump all that in. Like it didn't, that's not how we did it. So, but I do have the PDF, so I could quickly like copy paste, reformat. I've got like diagrams, I've got all sorts of stuff. But the thing that stopped me was I was going to do a big video tutorial series for it.
Right. Yeah.
And at that point, I was not doing video tutorials very often at all. And I was terrified. And that just was like an absolute screech to a halt, stop. And it's funny because this year I've been using some yarn that is so not me, but I bought the colors for the video tutorials for this project. So like I have these two colors to be two of the 4 squares that there's like because there's sort of like 4 basic squares you need to know in order to do this. And so like I bought these colors. Who am I?
Yeah.
But I knew it would look great on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I've been using them for tutorials. Like I just finished teaching a class yesterday on baubles.
Oh, there you go.
And at the end of every one of my bauble classes, you too could have a nipple bookmark. So
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been, and I picked this up the other day. Like I said, I was really at a loose ends knitting wise, and I think it's pretty common for me late winter to just be like, life has no meaning and no love, and I didn't want to do socks really. I've been doing socks a lot as my like not work knitting. I think I'm just kind of socked out. And this, because you get to make a new decision so often, right? So like you start and first you're just like, oh, I can't wait till I'm done the frame. And then I get to pick a color, right? And then I get to see, what does the color actually look like? And then you work it and you're like, and now I'm done. So why don't I just start the frame?
Yeah.
Pick another color. And then like, it's like all this fun. And each one of these for me is 4 grams of yarn. So like, this is not.
Yeah.
And what I actually have, when I'm working it, and I remember this from the last time I was working it, is how nice it is to have a blanket that is fingering weight. Garter fingering weight is almost in wool is almost the ideal blanket. It doesn't have to be really thick because it's wool, but because it's got the garter, it's still a bit squishy, but it's not heavy. And yet it's got like because it is wool and not acrylic or whatever, like it has like the perfect weight and the perfect cuddle. Yeah. So I evened up the top, and I should say in the pattern, the way that I work it, I only ever have one end to weave in. So like here, I have to clip a bunch of these, but the corner of the color is the only end I'll actually have to weave in. Every other end involved in this is knit in as you go. And there's just a certain point where you're like, oh yeah, there is that thing. I'm going to pick it up. And I do it held double. So each stitch is like 2 strands.
Yeah.
I'm not using the knitted in end technique that you and I've been talking about a lot lately, and that I have videos for. This is just literally grab the yarn, hold it double, knit 10 stitches, drop the one end. But yeah, you don't have to do a lot of sewing in ends either, which is a big deal. Like most of these, well, 75%, I'm just going to cut at this point.
Nice.
So
Judy, I agree. When Sarah was initially talking about not liking her colors to touch, I was thinking, I bet you she doesn't like food touching on her plate.
no, I'm fine.
I was gonna say, I think you're fine with the food touching on your plate. I'm the one who wants to like make sure that only certain foods touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the rectangles, they're not hard. They're quite simple. They involve some binding off is all it is. So rather than getting to a point, but yeah, like I'm gonna work on like a lot of people were like, please share this. So I am hoping to reformat the pattern. Copying and pasting from a PDF is weird. You like copy it over and the font will be like 4,000 point big. I'm like, what? It was 12 point in the PDF. What is going on?
Instead of doing that, just use there's a website called I Love PDF. And you can drag and drop a PDF into it and it will export it into Word.
I don't use Word though.
Okay, but see if it's got something
it might. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's good to know. I love
it's still
PDF.
like there's still some ickiness around how things transfer over, particularly if you're using custom fonts and stuff.
Yeah.
But try it.
I will. Awesome.
Yeah.
Rotate. I love that, Tara. I really love that. She physically separates it and just rotates her plate, consumes, rotates, consumes. And then Allison was asking, are any of the colors repeated? And yes, some of them are. Largely not, though. I didn't want them too repeated. This yarn here is a gradient, and I had a lot left over because I ordered a bunch, enough to make knee-high socks, and I over-ordered. So there are some repeats. I think some of the oranges repeat.
Yeah.
And so here's that gradient again. But if I repeat things, I try to make them like really far away.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want it to be too close. So.
Yeah, that looks so good.
And I mean, so I'm looking at some of these yarns, because some of these yarns I haven't seen in 5 years, right? Yeah. Or 3 years since I put it away. And I mean, some of these things I remember these socks for Reiner. I remember, this sweater that has leftovers. And I did not make it all superwash. So like, there's this absolutely amazing single ply jewel tone. It like glows in person, but that was dumb. So yeah, we'll just be very careful, and we'll use with the color catchers as well.
Yeah. I will be doing that with my big stained glass rainbows.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, I am almost out of tea.
Me too, and I'm out of knitting to talk about. I mean, unless we want to go do a deep dive into baubles. Little tiara.
There you go.
All right. So everyone have a great March, and we'll see you at early April.
Yeah, in probably not that long. Also, there will be an audio podcast this week. So we will
we're doing back-to-back recording again. That's always weird when we do these on a Sunday. It's like 18
we just talked about this. Yeah.
Did I just mention this? Yes, but not here. So it's new. So, all right.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.